All right, the lead for Wednesday, September 30th, 2015. Obama, outflanked, upstaged, sidelined, but still in office. And the new leadership dynamic shown at the UN General Assembly led by President Putin, President Xi, and other BRICS nations and collaborators, President Obama and his controllers have been dramatically outflanked and upstaged. The danger is Obama remains in office. This defines the continuing task of Americans, as reiterated for all to see at a lively rally on Monday at the UN Plaza, held by Manhattan Project activists with the clear message on banners such as this one: Obama, help world peace, resign today. A photo of this placard and another one: Putin stops Obama's Holocaust, throw Obama out, were sent around the world by the Sputnik news service over the last 48 hours. Sputnik America covered former Senator Mike Gravel yesterday under the headline, Obama should join Putin in the unified effort in Syria, former U.S. Senator. Regarding Syria, the one immediate and concrete outcome of Monday's evening's 90-minute meeting between Putin and Obama was the confirmation that U.S. and Russian military would be in communication for purposes of deconfliction of their military operations. This is ironic since that very process was initiated September 18th in a phone call between Russian Defense Minister Shoigu with U.S. Defense Secretary Carter, but shortly thereafter officially denied by the Obama administration. This is typical and dangerous. Kerry and Lavrov will also meet on Wednesday to further explore Russian diplomatic initiatives. According to one American source, Putin dominated the discussion with Obama with concrete proposals for a genuine UN-mandated war to wipe out the Islamic State, and came away with the sense that, for the first time, Obama had been forced to listen. But as Lyndon LaRouche reiterated on Tuesday, there is no safety until Obama is removed from office altogether. After the Putin-Obama meeting, Putin immediately conducted a lengthy open dialogue with Russian journalists, available in full on the Kremlin website. But Obama left the meeting saying nothing. Putin reiterated to the reporters his formulations given earlier that day to the General Assembly. The U.S., French, and Australian bombings in Syria are illegal, without UN Security Council mandate or invitation of the Syrian government. We must instead act in strict compliance with the norms of international law. Putin is calling for collaboration on Syria against terrorism and a meeting of all concerned nations in October. There have been a number of Russian initiatives on this prior to the week's UN session. The Joint Intelligence Center in Baghdad, Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Syria was launched and will be up and running in October. There is a parallel bilateral channel between Russia and Israel. And finally, Russia, China, and India met a while ago in Beijing to set in motion, under the framework of the UN Security Council, comprehensive collaboration on international terrorism. Amidst these important actions comes a special strategic initiative against the green fascists. President Putin, in his September 28th address to the UN General Assembly, made the offer that Russia would co-sponsor with the United Nations a world conference on the biosphere and technosphere to take up new, advanced technologies that can deal with resource depletion and improve the environment of the planet. In addition, Indian Prime Minister Modi has resumed the attack on the developed sector's schemes taken up at Copenhagen, warning that India will not accept any so-called climate change agreements, that such developing sector nations, out of real scientifically driven economic growth, In a one-on-one meeting with Modi, President Obama reportedly went into a quiet rage over Modi's resistance and will dispatch U.S. officials to squeeze a minute meeting between Presidents Obama and Putin finally held Monday was no one-on-one, but a formal affair of 5 or 6 officials of each nation, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Secretary of State John Kerry among them, flanking their presidents facing each other on opposite sides of a long table. Obama said nothing about the meeting afterwards, leaving it to an unnamed senior administration official to get a brief report later that evening that the meeting had been productive and focused, dealing principally with Ukraine and Syria. The unnamed official did, however, report that U.S.-Russia military coordination on Syrian operations, which the Obama White House had earlier shot down, will be established. As National Public Radio summarized, the officials report the two presidents did agree to have their militaries maintain communication in order to deconflict operations in Syria. Putin doesn't mince words. Unlike the White House, the Kremlin posted pictures of the meeting, and President Putin held a press conference with Russian journalists at the United Nations afterward. Putin, too, characterized the meeting as very constructive, businesslike, and surprisingly very frank, and expressed his view that it was very useful, but he was blunt about the continuing dangerous state of Russian-U.S. relations, and who is responsible for that state. Unfortunately, the relations between Russia and the United States are at a fairly low level. This is clear without any comments from me, but it was not our initiative to cause such a slump in relations between Russia and the United States. That is the position of our American partners. Is it good or is it bad? I think it is bad, for the bilateral relations and for global affairs, but that is the choice made by the United States. We are always prepared to develop contacts and restore full-scale relations. As for today's meeting, it was very useful, and what is particularly pleasant, it was very sincere. I think that our American partners explained their position quite clearly on many issues, including settling the situation in Ukraine and Syria, as well as the Middle East overall. Indeed, surprising as it may seem, we have many coinciding points and opinions about all these issues. We also have differences, which we have to agree to work on together. I hope that this work will be constructive. Putin emphasized the importance of the Minsk process on Ukraine. As for Syria, he made clear that Obama's regime change policy and insistence that Bashar al-Assad must be removed from office before all else remains a central deference. Putin reiterated to the Russian journalist that Russia will not yield on the principle of national sovereignty. He reported that he had discussed with Obama the fact that U.S., French, and Australian bombings inside Syria are illegal, as there is neither a UN Security Council resolution nor an initiative from the legitimate government backing them up. As for Assad, Putin said, I have great respect for my colleagues, both the American president and the French president. However, as far as I know, they are not citizens of the Syrian Republic, and therefore should not take part in determining the future of another's state leadership. This is the Syrians' business. Russia does not rule out anything, but if we do act, this will be in strict compliance with the norms of international law. More on Russian initiatives underway on Syria. Secretary of State John Kerry reported yesterday that he and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov have been instructed by their presidents to try to work out a common strategy on Syria. And to that end, he and Lavrov will meet today. The instructions came at yesterday's meeting between Obama and Putin, a meeting which Kerry described today as genuinely constructive, very civil, and very candid. Kerry's next statement made clear that with Obama and the girls, as retired Colonel Pat Lang is wont to say about Susan Rice, Samantha Power, and Valerie Jarrett et al., still in power, a common strategy is unlikely. Russia, Syria, Iran, and we and our coalition friends could end the violence in a very short period of time, Kerry said, if Bashar al-Assad leaves. You cannot bring peace in Syria as long as Assad is, in fact, there. It all depends on one man, and Russia and Iran should not be so stubborn here that they tie the whole thing up simply because of one person. Kerry's one man, unfortunately, was not a reference to Obama. Foreign Minister Lavrov, for his part, told RT from New York City that the two presidents didn't discuss coalitions in the classical sense of the word. What they did discuss was the possibilities for the United States and Russia to cooperate closely on the most burning issues of today. Syria, first of all, and there we all agreed that our common goal is to defeat ISIL, not to allow ISIL to establish the caliphate, which it is planning to have on huge territories. We believe that all those who fight on the ground against the terrorist groups, ISIL and others, must be coordinated, not necessarily under single command. This is not realistic. Putin made the same point about the Baghdad's information center's purpose in his September 28th press conference with Russian journalists, and that it was open to all. He pointed to the utter failure of Obama's current coalition, never mentioning Obama by name. Look what is happening. Your colleague asked about airstrikes dealt at ISIS on Syrian territory by representatives of various states. These include Australia and the United States, and France has now joined them. What is the outcome? A few days ago, our military have calculated that U.S. aviation made 43 strikes at Syrian territory within 24 hours. What is the result? Nobody knows if there is any. Putin cited Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Jordan as possible regional candidates to join the international anti-Hitler coalition he proposed in his UNGA speech. Asked why he made the comparison with the Nazis, Putin said, "I believe this was no surprise to anyone. Look at what they are doing, at their atrocities. They are beheading people, burning them alive, destroying monuments of world culture, and so forth. Doesn't a comparison with the Nazis come natural here? This is exactly what the Nazis did in their time. Therefore, there is nothing surprising here. I think I would very much like for us to understand this and bring as many countries as possible together to fight this threat." Among several meetings Putin held on the sidelines of the UNGA in his one-day visit to New York were ones with Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu, and Iraqi President Haider al-Abadi.